Hi guys, I'm Jesse at Strobepro.com, and today I'm going to be showing you the Godox V1 Speedlite. This is a fully featured Speedlite, but it's got a couple of different changes compared to a regular one. It's got a round head, it's got an LED, and a couple other new features. Let's check out what's inside the box and get right into it. So every Godox V1 Speedlite is going to come with a number of things inside the box here. So the first is going to be your actual light, and this comes in a pouch, and you're going to get your flash foot. You're going to have your lithium battery, because this is a lithium powered flash. We have our charger and our charger adapter here, and then the actual USB cable to use that charger. So if you ever want to charge this, all you're going to have to do is take this port here and plug in the battery to it like that. And then this USB just connects into the side here on the one end. So you would just use this cable into there, and this can either plug into your computer, or if you want to go into the wall, you just plug into the end of this adapter and then into the wall that way to charge it. So inside your pouch here is going to be your light, and in other flashes, the flash foot fits inside. On this one, it's actually on the outside of this. So if you open up this Velcro, this is your belt strap, or you can attach that to your camera bag. So this is a great place to store this flash foot. It would just slide right in there, and then you can strap it back on so you're not going to lose that. But for now, we're just going to actually put this onto the actual V1 here. And a great thing about the V1, a new feature, is the new lever lock. So previously you had to screw down that flash to attach it to your hot shoe. Now you just slide that right into the hot shoe, if I put it the right way here, and then it retracts the pins and then pushes them down to lock into position just like that. Before we go any further, let's take a quick look at what makes the Godox V1 unique. Right away, you're going to notice this round head on here, and inside the front element is a diffuser, and that diffuser helps in a number of different areas. The biggest thing is going to be the transition on the edges, so it's going to be a much smoother transition compared to a normal like X60 rectangle head. You're also going to help mitigate hot spots with that diffuser, and the round head in general is just a more natural looking light pattern. You're also going to have unique features such as an LED modeling lamp. Now that is not traditionally found in a Speedlite, so it's a really great added benefit that you're going to get in the V1. In addition to that, the V1 uses a lithium battery, which is fantastic because it lasts a long time. It's going to recycle in full power at 1.5 seconds, and it's going to last for over 480 shots. Now this might seem like a small thing, but the swivel on the V1 is also greatly improved. So we have our traditional lights or Speedlites which can rotate on axis like that. But if you're using this on camera, it's really handy because this will actually tilt back without you having to rotate the head around and do it that way. It's just a quick flip back, so you can bounce that off the ceiling, or if you want to create some indirect light, it is really helpful while this is on camera. In addition to all those features, we have a completely redesigned menu system. It's got a new high contrast LCD as well, which is great for seeing this while it's on camera. Another great thing about the Godox V1 is that you can purchase the optional AKR1 accessory kit, and the round head has a built-in magnet system there, and all of these accessories have that same magnet system. So I can take something like this, a gel set, attach it onto the front. I can combine that with a grid, for example, and you just rotate till it finds its magnet, or even a diffuser or a bounce card just like that. So the options are really limitless as to what you can do. We can use our barn door set here as well. So you have all these really compact modifiers that you can use directly on here without any adapter. One of the concerns customers had when the V1 first came out is that it was not going to fit in their existing brackets so that they could use their existing Strobepro modifiers with it. Now we have come out with the S2 bracket now, which fits the round head, which makes this very, very useful. So you can use your whole collection of Strobepro modifiers that have Bones mounts just like this directly with the V1. And to do that, it's really easy. You're just going to back this off, mount it flush on the round head here so that it's centered in the middle. Then you can take things still like our accessory kit. So if we wanted to really diffuse this reflector we're going to attach, you can throw that on. And then our Bowens mount just mounts flush in there. So we can have a really nice diffused Speedlite right in our bracket here. We can also use things like bigger beauty dishes or soft boxes. And on this bracket, we also have an umbrella mount. So you can run an umbrella right through there. It's got full tilting ability, and it's easy to take modifiers on and off just from the release right here. Pull that back and they pop right off. So you're definitely going to want to pick up this S2 bracket. It's really an invaluable piece of kit to go with your V1. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a lithium powered flash. It's going to get great battery life because of that. So you can run 480 full power flashes and it recycles in 1.5 seconds. Now most people don't use this at full power, so getting like 1,000, 1,200 shots off of this on lower power settings is definitely attainable. In the middle of the flash, you're going to see the battery opening here, and we have our connections on the inside. So to install that, all you're going to do, just make sure you're lined up, and the battery will only fit in one way. If you try to go this way, it's not going in. So just install like that, slide it in, and it's going to lock into place. If you need to remove that, again, just push this release button over here and push the battery back out the other side. Right beside the battery release, underneath of this flap, we're going to have 2 additional ports. So the first one is going to be a USB-C connection, and that's used for firmware upgrades. So you can go to the Strobepro website under the firmware section, make sure you've got the latest update, and you can check the video exactly on how to do that. Beside that, we have a PC sync port, so if you wanted to use an external trigger to trigger this, you could. I highly don't recommend that because this has the X series receiver built right into it, which is a far better way to fire this flash, which we're going to show you in a couple minutes. The last thing on the front here you're going to notice under this red piece is our IR port that's used to receive signals through infrared. And then we have our modeling lamp, which you can see just the chip on the very front there, which I'm going to show you in the menu system. So speaking of the menus, let's get involved in that whole system and check out what it's all about. I've mounted the V1 to a light stand now. We're just going to power it on by flipping the switch on. And this is the menu screen that you're going to see. Now we happen to be using a Canon version here, but we do have them available for Nikon, Sony, Fuji, Panasonic, Olympus, and Pentax. So that really only matters if you're going to be using it on your camera body. If we use it off camera, you can use any brand. It doesn't matter as long as you have the correct trigger, which is sold separately. And we'll go over that in a minute. But this only matters on camera so that the pins align so you have TTL and high-speed sync. So when we first power on, this is the mode that we're going to use if we're using it on camera. Later on, we're going to activate the wireless, but if you're the kind of shooter that likes this on camera, this is the mode that you want. Right away, we're going to see that we are in ETTL because this is Canon. It might show ITTL if you're in using a Nikon. And we've got a number of different things that we can do in this mode. So in this mode, basically the camera and the flash are communicating together and they are deciding the best power for what your subject is reflecting back to the camera. Now, we can override that. So say that we wanted more power in that. We can use our plus minus button over here, which adds exposure compensation. Now, all we do to activate that, push that plus minus button on the side there, and we can add up to 3 stops, or we can go -3 stops as well. So even though we are in automatic mode, we do still have some control, which can be nice. Up on the top here beside the TTL, we have an A and 50 millimeters. That is indicating our zoom control. So right now it's saying that we are in automatic zoom control and it's at 50 millimeters. So what this light will attempt to do is match your focal length on the lens that you're using and in automatic mode. If we want to override that, we're just going to push the zoom button here, which is on the wheel. So we just push zoom, it's going to be highlighted. Now we can adjust the zoom all the way from 28 millimeters at its widest opening, and then we can control the diaphragm. You're going to hear it moving in there a little bit. And we can bring that all the way up to 105 millimeters, which is at its maximum. So that's going to try to push the light as far as possible by using that diaphragm, or it's going to open it up to widen out that beam. So let's talk about these features on the bottom here. So this menu is controlled directly by the button underneath of it. And if we go to TCM, first of all, what this is a quick and convenient way to convert an automatic TTL meter reading to manual power output. So we have to have the light on the camera to do this, and we have to take a picture so we can get that TTL reading first. But after we took that picture, what we could do is hit TCM, and it's going to convert this to a manual power setting. So then that gives you a reference point if you wanted to switch your flash to manual. If you're shooting an event or something, then you could walk around knowing, okay, I should be around half power or something, for example. So you can use that. It's also available on the controller, but the controller would override this function if you were using it. The next menu is going to be our sync, and if we push this once, we're going to see high-speed sync pop up there. Now, a lot of cameras are going to automatically enable this. Some won't. So if you roll over your native camera shutter speed, which is normally either like 1/250th on Nikon or 1/200th on Canon, what you're going to see is that high-speed sync pop up. And that just allows us to be able to shoot this at maximum sync speeds all the way up to 1/8000th of a second if your camera is capable of going that high. So if your camera does not automatically enable this, we can hit that sync button. Then it's going to make sure that we have that. If you try to shoot high-speed sync with that not enabled, you're going to get a big black bar that pops up on your screen because you've essentially taken a picture of your shutter closing. So just make sure that's enabled and you won't have any sync issues at all. Now if we push the button again, we're going to go to rear curtain sync. So if we want to play around with some trailing flash, that's a great way to do that. And you can enable it just by going there. But normally we want to make sure that we are in first curtain sync. So we would leave it there and there's going to be nothing indicated, which is our normal shooting mode. The next thing we have here is flash exposure bracketing. So if we push that button, what this is going to do is take 3 shots on your camera. So the first one is going to be a normal exposure, then we are going to underexpose by 1 shot and then overexpose by 1 shot. So a lot of people really like this for HDR. And we need to make sure when we go into flash exposure bracketing that we set however many stops we want. So we could just set it for a 3rd stop or 7th, or we can do full stops all the way up to +3. So you can set in whatever power you want there. And once it's set, we can either hit the middle button, or if we leave it, it's just going to disappear and be into the main menu. So next is a really unique feature about the V1, and that's its ability to use a modeling lamp. Most flashes don't have that ability, so it's really useful to be able to use that. So to activate it, we are going to push the modeling lamp button, which is on the direction pad there. And you're going to see that little thing pop up because it's not going to activate until we turn it on or off. So if I rotate the dial, nothing's happening. I need to push the center button here, which is the set button. And now I'm controlling the power of the modeling lamp. So now I'm on 1. I can bring that all the way up to 10. Now, just to turn it on and off, I can just hit that middle button again and then back out by pushing my modeling lamp button. And so if I want to activate it again, modeling lamp button and just push the middle, and it's going to go right back to where it previously was. It's going to be set there. So we can easily, leave it on 5 if you want, and it's going to be available every time you turn on your modeling lamp. So now we're going to go into manual mode, and we do that by pushing the mode button on the wheel there. And right away, we're going to see our power output. And that's another great feature about the V1 is that it goes all the way down to 1/256, which most Speedlites do not do. We've got a full 9 stops of power control. Plus, we've got the ability to adjust this in 1/10 increments or 1/3, which is also really nice to fine tune. To control the power, we're just going to hit the plus minus button again, and then we can adjust The power, 1256 being minimum, all the way up to 1/1, which will be full power. We can lock it in by pushing the middle button, or it will default out of there. So over here, we still have our TCM button, so it's kind of going to work in reverse if we want to use that compared to TTL, which I just explained. So if I push TCM, it's going to prompt you, and it's going to want to take a picture. This has to be attached to your camera, and it's going to take a TTL shot, and then it's going to convert that to a manual power setting to give you a baseline. So you can continue to use TCM that way. We've also got our sync again, so we can do high-speed sync. We've got our rear curtain sync or just first curtain sync on the front there. And then now we have S1, S2. That is if we are going to use this flash off camera without a controller, for example. S1 activates the optical slave in the front, so it's going to fire as long as it sees another flash from another Speedlite, a strobe. Any flash is going to fire this. Now if we push that again, S2, this is basically the same thing except it ignores TTL pre-burst, or if you were using like red eye reduction on a point and shoot camera, it would ignore that and then fire in sync. This is really rarely used now. And S1, you probably don't want to use that much unless you're in a controlled environment, because we have a much better way to control this, which is with the optional controller and the radio. So going from manual mode, we're going to hit the mode button one more time and get into multi. Now, a lot of people have misconceptions about what this is. Multi-mode is not a mode where you use high burst rates on continuous high and just try to fire off this flash as many times as you can. Multi is used for a single long exposure. An example of that would be a dancer performing like a pirouette on a stage, and you want to get the different sequences of that move in one single shot. And the way that we do that is we set our flash power and then the number of times the flash is going to fire and the hertz. And that's where we see our flash power up there. So to access that flash power, we hit the plus minus and we can adjust this. Now, this is best used with lower flash power settings, because obviously if we're at full power, I'm not going to be able to blast off 10 shots in 1 second on this. This is a fast flash, but it's still best used, 1/64th or lower if you want to use those the fast burst rates. So once we set our power level, then we're going to go to the times. This is the number of flashes that we're going to fire. So let's just dial in a number there at 7. And then we have our hertz. This is the number of flashes that would happen in a second, and we can set this, let's say we'll set it to 9 here. Now when we hit the test button, this is going to burst off. You can see that firing. Now to set this really depends on your shutter speed. Like I was saying, you can't just dial your power all the way up. There's a relation between the power level, the number of flashes, and the hertz. There's a formula, and that's in the manual, but basically you're going to take your number of flashes and divide it by the hertz, and that's going to give you your shutter speed. So let's say if I set this to 10 shots and I wanted to do 5 hertz, basically our shutter speed, if we divide the 10 by 5, our shutter speed should be set to 2 seconds then. So that's just a quick formula that you could use, but there is a table inside the manual there that you can see to set those different power levels. Okay guys, we're going to get out of multi-mode here and we'll push the mode button and we're back in TTL. Now I'm going to show you about the wireless modes where this flash really shines because of its built-in wireless capabilities. We access that by pushing this button right under the horizontal zigzag, and that's going to open up a whole new menu here. And this is our wireless master mode. We know we're in wireless because of the symbol up there, and we have our channel indication down there. This mode has been completely redesigned for the V1. It is very easy to access and control. You can see we have control selection along the bottom here, and there's a couple other new things that make it really easy. But before we get into any of that, what we would need to do is set our channel. And I'm going to show you how to do that by selecting the menu button here. and then we're going to go down until we find channel. And we can see there that we're on channel 21, and we would be able to just hit the set button in the middle and then use our dial to select whatever we wanted. So I'm going to leave that on channel 21 for right now because our other controller is set to that. But what we can do, if we were getting some interference, we can go to scan, and this is a newer feature on some of our latest flashes and controllers where we can go and select start, and when I hit start, now the V1 is looking for the most optimal flash channels that have the least amount of interference. So it's going to take a few seconds here. It's scanning all of the channels, and it's going to give you a list of channels that it thinks are the most interference free. So we see a list now, and we could just select one of those. Because we don't have any other flashes going on, I'm just going to leave it on 21, but you could select from that list really easily. The only other thing to do with channel would be ID. If you turn this on, it's going to select any number of channels or IDs there, which work in conjunction with channel to give you the ultimate amount of flexibility if you happen to be getting any interference. Very rarely do we find that you need to use an ID, but just make sure if you've set an ID on this flash, you need to set an ID on every other flash or strobe that you're using. So our channel is set now. We'll just back out and we're ready to select our groups. Okay, so you can see that we have A, B, C, and D. Now, in master mode, we always have a master flash. This would be the flash that's on your camera. So you can either set that to fire or you can set it not to fire. And because we're using a Canon flash here, we have A, and A is indicating that that is the master flash. On other brands like Nikon, it's going to show M and then ABC. It's just a different way. Different camera companies differentiate this however they want. But for Canon, it's A. For yours, it might show M. So just be aware of that as we go through here. So what we want to do is first of all select our A group, which is our master because we're on Canon, and I do that under the A, and we're just pushing the button, whatever group we want to control. If it's B, I go under B or C really easily. So we'll go back to A, and what I want to do is adjust the power there. So we're in manual mode, and I can select whatever power setting I want for our master flash. One thing to be aware of, if I turn this off, which is indicated by the dotted line here, so I can just go to mode and select, on this one, there's the new interface, we select mode by pushing the A group again. You can see that it says A mode. So off, TTL, manual, and off again. Even though we turn this off, it is still going to fire a flash that you will see, and that is still just communicating with the other flashes, but it won't be exposed in your shot. So don't be alarmed if you still see it fire, it won't be exposed there. So let's set our master flash into manual mode here, and again we're going to select the mode, manual, and then we can adjust to whatever we want. Now let's say we want to add one of our external V1s that's set to B group, and we want to set that one to manual as well, and then we can set C if we wanted to whatever we want. And again in TTL we can add exposure compensation. Normally you probably would not mix manual and TTL, but you could if you wanted to. So anyways, we've got all our powers set there, and then we would hit our test button or fire our camera shutter, and it would fire all of those flashes in sync together. So that is kind of a quick overview of master mode. Now you do have another function in there. If we hit the mode button, we're just going to select that so nothing's selected, and we tap mode again. Now we have our multi-mode. So our power is going to be set for all of the flashes that we want multi on. So again, let's say I set it to 1.8 and I want to turn A off and I want to turn B off, for example, and leave C on and D off. When we fire this, then only the C group will fire, and we can set our flashes or hertz and our times over here by pushing the middle set button, and we can adjust there and hit it again, and it's going to jump over so we can set our hertz as well. So just be aware that it's a general setting. All the flashes are going to be set to the same power level when you're using master group mode in multi-mode. So now that we've looked at master mode, both regular and multi, if we hit the button again, and we're going over to our zigzag button, hitting that, now we're going to see the screen change color, and we've got a couple of new things that pop up here. So it's saying our channel, and now the big indicator is slave, and it's showing our group as A there. We've also got two new buttons here, our group and our channel. And this mode is where this flash will live a lot of the time if you're using it off camera with other lights and you've got a controller. So the controller is purchased separately, but any of our X series controllers will work with this. Now the big thing to keep in mind is that this is going to be off camera now, and the controller is going to be in charge on our camera. We still need to set the channel though so that it's communicating, and we had set it to channel 21 before. We've got a quicker access rather than going into the menu. If we didn't want to do that, like I showed you earlier, we could just hit the channel button here. It's going to highlight the channel, and then we can use the dial to set the channel to whatever we wanted to. And again, hit the middle button, and that's going to back out. And let's say this one is going to be A, but let's assume we had two other lights on B and C. So we would hit the group, set one of them to A, one to B, one to C. And the nice thing about this is that when we turn it off, all of these settings are always saved in here, so you're not going to have to go in and reset any of this. So now we're going to bring in a controller, and I have the XT Pro here, which is a great controller. And you can see that I've already set this to channel 21, which matches our channel 21 here. And I'm indicated on group A. So now I can rotate the dial here, and you see those changes applied directly to the flash. I can hit my test button here, and I can adjust other things like my zoom. I can activate high-speed sync on here directly if I wanted to. And you'll see it changed to Sony. Why the heck did it say Sony on there when it's a Canon flash? Well, I just happen to have a Sony trigger here. And like I said before, as long as you have your specific camera brand controller, any of these lights off camera will operate just like they were that brand. So I can use a Sony controller and make a Canon Speedlite perform just like an actual OEM Sony. So for a complete guide on all the settings in the controller or any of our other controllers, please check out the videos. They'll be in the links in our description, or you can find them at Strobepro.com. Okay guys, those are all the modes. Now we're going to get into some of the custom functions, and I'm going to get out of this screen just because the background is orange here and it's a little bit easier to see on the blue if we get out of there. So I'm going to turn wireless off, and now I'm going to go and access my menu. So the first custom function that you're going to see there is meters and feet, and the way we get over to the menu is hit the set button, and then we can adjust as necessary to imperial or metric. To get back to the menu, we just hit the set button again. That'll back us out. If we want to go all the way out, we hit this little arrow button over here, and that'll back us completely back to the main menu. So now we're going to go to autofocus, and autofocus is assisting. It's going to help assist in low light, basically. It's going to project a beam out and assist the flash in focus, or assist the camera in focusing. So you can turn that on and off. Next, we're going to have standby mode, which will turn the camera into sleep mode after a designated amount of time. And we have a slave standby as well down below. In slave standby, we can either select 30 or 60 minutes. So if this flash is off camera, it's going to automatically go into sleep mode after either 30 or 60 minutes. Next, we have our scan, which we already went over, which is going to find you the best channel to select. We have our channel selection there, and then we have our ID as well. And if you hit the set on ID, it's either going to go off or you're just going to select whatever channel that you want. Next is the recycling beep. So if I get out of here and I test fire this, you hear the beep firing as soon as it's recycled. This flash is so fast that that can get really annoying quick, so I would recommend probably turning that off, or it's just going to be constantly beeping. So we can just go and select off for the beep, and back down. We're using the wheel to go to the next one. Light, this is the backlight, so we can have it 12 seconds, we can have it off, or we can have it on. For this video, we're leaving it on, but I recommend leaving it on 12 seconds so you don't kill your battery needlessly there. LCD is our contrast on our LCD, so we can adjust that. I've never found that this mode made a huge difference, so I usually just leave that in 0. If we go over here, flash exposure bracketing auto cancel, that goes all the way back to when we first talked about the flash exposure bracketing and it automatically being turned off after you fire those first 3 shots. We can leave it off if we want it to just continually reset the next 3 shots. Next we have master, and this I did not talk about, but in the master mode we can turn this off so that we have no control for our on-camera group. So I showed you before that on this Canon it's A, on a Nikon it would show as M. We can turn that off so that we don't have that master on there. And then we're back to our meters and feet. Now these can occasionally change and they might be a little bit different, say if you're using a Fuji, the order of them, but with firmware changes we can add them or modify those. So make sure you've got the most current firmware on there, and you can check that by looking at the version up there. This one is in 1.3 right now. And you can find all the latest firmware versions on our website and a full video on how to upgrade to the latest firmware. So we'll go back to the main menu once more here, and I just wanted to show you this lock. If you don't want any of these settings to be changed, we can hold the menu button and you're going to see a lock. It says lock that came up. Now none of these changes. I can't push any buttons until I go in and push the lock and hold it, and it will unlock, and now I have control back again. The last thing here, if you've screwed something up in your flash and you do not know what you did, you can hold the reset button here, which is those 2 buttons combined, hold them for 3 seconds, and it's going to reset the flash back to factory default. Okay guys, I know that's been a lot of information. You've seen all about the new features on the V1, you've seen the new menu system. This is actually a really easy flash to use. Combine this with our X controllers and you're going to have full power control off camera. But this flash is also fantastic as a master on camera. We've got a lot of wedding photographers that love using this. It provides really nice looking light on camera, which is sometimes where you're going to be as a wedding shooter. But not only on camera, off camera with the S2 bracket, combine that with all our Strobepro accessories and modifiers, and you've really got a winning system. It's small, it's portable, you've got that LED modeling lamp in there, and this thing just lasts forever as well with that lithium battery. 480 shots at full power, and it recycles in 1.5 seconds. That's really just hard to beat. So if you have any other questions or you want to have more information about these different modifiers that we've shown you and some others that we haven't, please check them out at Strobepro. And until next time, I'm Jesse at Strobepro.com.